Now, the tilt can make a massive difference on the feeling and sensation of the saddle. What's up, guys? Since my last video reviewing my goat saddle, this AliExpress Riot saddle, I had a lot of comments asking how to set up the saddle or that you guys are interested in buying the saddle. Now, here's the reality. You can have the best saddle in the world, but if it's set up incorrectly, it can feel horrible. It can cause you to lose power, it can cause numbness, and it can even cause saddle sores. Now, every saddle is unique in its construction. Some have a big cutout, small cutout, some are wider, some are longer. So it's important to set up the saddle exactly how you like it. So in this quick video, I want to talk about how to set up your Riot 3D printed saddle when it arrives. So first you want to check your saddle height. Now, if you know your saddle height measurement from a bike fit, you can simply put on this saddle and then measure from the top of the saddle to the center of the bottom bracket down there and just adjust it as you need to. If you don't know your correct saddle height, you can use the Lemond formula, which is 0.883 multiplied by your inseam length to get a rough ballpark of your saddle height, and then you can adjust it from there. Typically, if your saddle is too high, you'll find that your hips are not stable, like you're kind of rocking a little bit on the saddle. You'll feel that you have to almost stretch your legs quite far to push down on the saddle, and you may feel like your pedaling is very choppy. If your saddle's too low, it'll feel like you're almost in a squat and you're pedaling in a squat position, and it may feel like you're not able to push a lot of power to activate your glutes and your hamstrings and get that nice float at the bottom of the pedal stroke. Now, once you've got your saddle height, you can look to check the angle of your saddle. So I recommend starting off with about 0 degrees. Right now you can see that it's almost level. If I use the bubble level up here on my phone, you can see that there's a very slight downward tilt of about 0.8 degrees, okay? I'd say a good starting point would be to make it perfectly level to begin with, as this is a nice neutral position. Now, once you've got the saddle at a neutral angle, you can think about changing the fore aft of the saddle, which is how far forward it is. Now, if you're sitting on the saddle about here, which is where it's designed to be sat on roughly, and you're pushing a big gear, do you find that your hamstrings are doing a lot of the work or your quads are doing a lot of the work? If your quads are doing a lot of the work, it could be that your saddle is too far forward and you need to move it back. So just move it back in 5 mil increments. If you're finding that your quads are not really engaged at all, it could mean that your saddle is too far back and you may need to move it forward so that you've got a good balance between your hamstrings and your quads in terms of the muscle activation when you're pedaling. If you find yourself, when you're pushing a lot of power, wanting to sit at the front of the saddle, that could mean that your saddle needs to come forward. If you find when you're pushing a big gear, like on a climb or when you're doing a seated sprint, that you want to sit back here, then you may need to move your saddle back. So make sure to get the fore aft correct. Once you've done that, that's when you can start experimenting with the tilt. Now, the tilt can make a massive difference on the feeling and sensation of the saddle because the way that your ischial tuberosities, your sit bones, interact with the saddle will change a lot with different tilts. So as I said, start with 0 degrees and then go down in around 0.2 degree increments, okay? So for my Tantan bike, that means tightening this bolt and loosening the bolts under there very slightly to change the tilt. I would say go from 0 degrees down to -2 degrees and see how that feels. If there's no position there that feels good, then you can even start at 0 degrees and maybe go up to 1 degree nose up in 0.2 degree increments. If I'm finding that when I hold that aerodynamic position, I'm getting a lot of pressure at the front of my perineal area, just under my genitalia region, that means that my saddle is too high at the nose. And so I'll move it down in 0.2 degree increments until it feels fine. Now, if my saddle is too far down at the nose, it'll almost feel like I'm sliding off the front of the saddle. Okay, so that's how I know, that's my cue that the nose is too far down. And in that case, I'll move the nose up a little bit. And when the saddle is in the perfect position, it should feel like your ischial tuberosities, your sit bones are sitting about here. You're not getting any pressure on your peritoneal area, and you feel really supported by the saddle. And you're able to generate a lot of power even when you're in an aerodynamic position. The other thing is that if you adjust the angle of the saddle, that'll also affect the height of the saddle and it may affect where you sit on the saddle. If you put the nose down, it may lead you to naturally want to come more forward on the saddle, which may result in the effective saddle height being a bit lower because the saddle kind of curves down. So you may need to increase the saddle height. If you put the nose up, that may lead you to want to sit further back on the saddle, which, because of the curve here, may increase the effective saddle height. You're further away from the bottom bracket. So you may need to lower the saddle to compensate. So keep in mind that when you're adjusting the tilt of the saddle, that can also influence the effective saddle height and also the effective fore aft as well, depending on where on the saddle you're now sitting. Keep in mind that everyone has a different pelvic anatomy, so some saddles just simply won't work for some people. If you like this saddle, I've got an affiliate link in the description below. I love this saddle because it's only 120 grams. It has the 3D printed mesh to lock in your sit bones, and it has this very nice carbon design that's really rock solid. You can see I can put my whole weight on it. It doesn't deflect at all, and it's very smooth when your inner thighs are rubbing against it. So I hope this has been helpful. Let me know if you have any questions about the saddle or about bike fitting in the comment section below, and make sure to subscribe. Thanks, guys.